Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for May 8th. It's Wednesday. We got Robbie Veno on talking the 2 NBA playoff games for tonight, and we got 4 MLB games on the slate. Hopefully throw out some winners for tonight's betting card. But without further ado, Robbie Veno, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
I am doing great today, Drew. How about yourself? I'm
doing good, man, and we're both on some pretty good runs here at sportsmemo.com. Robbie's got a 5% up on tonight's action, so check that out at sportsmemo.com. He's had a heck of a run in the NBA playoffs since 2016, up over, Robbie, 58%?
Yes, overall in the NBA playoffs since that time, Drew, it's up over 60 now. So we're sitting at 61-39 the last 3 years on all of our plays, which is 61%. And the top tier, the 4 and 5%, 28-16 with last night's winner on the Philly-Toronto over, puts us at 63.5% over an extended period of time. And of course the blue chip 5% have been great for a long time.
Yeah, good stuff. So I was selling you short on the 58% since 2016 in the NBA playoffs. It's actually up over 60%. So even more percent there to put in your pocket. But check out sportsmemo.com for Robbie's 5% top play on tonight's board. But let's break down these games tonight, Robbie. We got 509, 510 Boston at the 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks laying 8.5 now. Looks like this side is getting a little pricey now compared to the games beforehand, Robbie. But your opinion's more important than mine. We got 220.5, as the total. How are you looking to bet the Celtics and Bucks tonight?
Actually, Drew, where my power ratings are concerned, it hasn't quite reached where I had this number placed, which was Milwaukee minus 10. So it's climbing, opened at 8. Certainly, I think the majority opinion across the country right now between analysts, people who are inside the NBA, handicappers, bettors, no matter what segment of people you take that are interested in these playoffs, I think the overwhelming sentiment is that Boston's finished right now. That's what we hear. The narrative that's been drummed in the last couple of days, Kyrie Irving will be leaving Boston. The Celtics are a mess, down 3-1. Should be a cakewalk for Milwaukee. So we see a increase in the price here toward the Bucks. The Bucks have done nothing since Game 1 to discourage anybody from betting them. The question becomes, do you think that Boston has enough pride and enough fight to go on the road here and stick within this price tag? They could very well have that. I mean, they came here in Game 1 and won straight up, so we can't sell them that short. I think ever since Milwaukee got the perimeter game going, Drew, remember they shot so lousy in Game 1 from three-point distance. That's been turned around over the course of the last 3 games that they've won. They've been able to shoot a high percentage against Boston. And, in fact, last game, they shot a better percentage from the floor than they did from 3. They just get a high volume of shots up. Again, I'm going to go back to the statistic that I kind of brought into our podcast about a month ago, and I've continued to talk about as we analyze basketball games, but that percentage of points scored, if you just look at the pace of the Boston-Milwaukee series by using percentage of potential points scored, this series has gone from, if every shot went in the basket in Game 1, they would have scored 454. If every shot went in the basket in Game number 2, they would have scored 483. 473 in Game 3, all the way up to 513 in Game 4. Now, they shot their worst percentage, the two teams combined. They only scored 41.7% of those 513 points. But the fact that the volume's been there the last 3 games, I think totally favors Milwaukee because they are the team that shoots the most threes of the two. It's a difficult call point spread wise here, but Milwaukee is a much better home team against the number than Boston is road team. Milwaukee 26-17 against the points at home right now. And I think they have that closeout mentality. So for me, it would probably be Milwaukee here. in this game minus the points. But as you mentioned, it's getting awfully pricey at this point in time. They didn't lay more than 8 in either of the first 2 games, and here we see a little bit of take back down to 8.5 as we do this podcast now.
Yeah, Robbie, and in the late night game, 10:30 Eastern tip here, we got Houston at Golden State, both games on TNT. Also a 220.5 as the total. Golden State laying 6 at home.
Yeah, another game where the amount of available points has really increased in the last 2, and I think that's due to an obvious factor here that Houston has found a way to score rather easily against Golden State. And, we hear an awful lot about it. Is Steph Curry being abused defensively in this series, but more importantly, the emergence of Eric Gordon for Houston to complement James Harden ever since Harden got his eye scratched in game 2. When Houston went back home, they followed up with big performances, total of 247 in game 3, total of 220 in game 4. Depending on when you got that number, you could have bet over and under and won both ways, or you could have I feel like you could have lost both ways there as well. But despite
it depends which side you're on, right? It can work against you as well.
Yeah, because that number came crashing down to a point where it wound up going over the closer by half a point. So in this particular contest, Drew, I think you have to handicap with the idea that things are going to come back to the mean. And statistically, numerically for Golden State, the shooting percentages have not been what we would expect of Golden State. Now, I know that at this point in time, there's a lot of consideration out there for the fatigue factor with Golden State, that they're being out physical, that their bodies are wearing down, and perhaps that'll affect their shooting. But I think at home here tonight, with the home adrenaline, you could expect Golden State to do much better than 8 for 33 from three-point land. Steph Curry is due for an explosive game. Klay Thompson even more due for an explosive game. Kevin Durant's done his part. I think Golden State at home probably gets their share. And Houston right now, in the heat of the moment, off of the last 2 games we've seen, it does appear, as I said earlier, like they've found a formula on offense. As methodical as they are offensively, they're so efficient, and they score points. They get to the free throw line. So we've seen this total get bumped here today. And originally, it went straight down to, I think, 218 and a half. And now we've seen take back all the way up to the original opener, 220 and beyond, 220 and a half, and, a stray 221 out there at Cantor. So, I think that people are probably, or the money is probably correct in that assumption that game gets up and over the total. We'll see how it plays out. I just don't know. Originally I gave a lot of credit in this series to Golden State's defense, but as this series has gone on, like I say, it seems like the formula that Houston has for scoring against Golden State, to me, as I watch it closely, it doesn't look like Golden State can stop it. So it may be a case where they simply have to outscore the Houston Rockets. Whether they can outscore them by more than 6 is another question. Remember the first 2 games in Golden State, as lopsided as they appeared to the eye, they were only 4 and 6 point Golden State wins. So Houston's right there. Real pivotal game. A general handicapping theory would be a game 5 like this. You would expect everybody diving for loose balls and some extended defensive pressure, stuff like that. But I just don't know the way this series is going. To me, it might play more of an over than to the under.
Good stuff, Robbie. And guys, check out sportsmemo.com for his 5% NBA blue chip playoff game 5 total. And with the coupon code podcast at checkout, you can get it for half off any play on the board, including our feature play, which is Robbie Veno's 5% NBA blue chip playoff game 5 total at sportsmemo.com for half off using the coupon code podcast at checkout. Robbie, we got some MLB up for you as well at sportsmemo.com, so that coupon code will work on any of those plays. Also, any other plays from any other handicapper at sportsmemo.com. The coupon code is podcast. Let's move on to the MLB, Robbie. We'll start off San Francisco at Colorado. We got Holland coming from the left side for the Giants. John Gray coming from the right side for the Rockies. This one in Colorado, minus 140. The Rockies home favorites, 9.5 being the total here, Robbie. Looks like, I believe just off the top of my head, San Francisco is what, like 4-20 or 4-16, something crazy in Colorado over their last few years. So they've struggled here. I would look for it to continue. I think Colorado's the side. How do you view this one?
Yeah, it's interesting, Drew, because my first reaction was Colorado would be the side here. I'd have no problem playing against Derek Holland in Coors Field with the Colorado bats as hot as they are. You take a look at both of these teams and you see they're on extended over streaks right now where the total is concerned. San Francisco's played 5 consecutive overs. Colorado's played 6 consecutive overs. San Francisco has been able to do all of their damage with the 5 overs on the road. Once they get outside of AT&T Park, it's a little easier to score runs in Cincinnati and in Colorado. Last night they scored 14 of those runs. So certainly they're happy to get the sticks out of San Francisco and into other more hitter-friendly areas. But I don't know that they can out-hit Colorado here. The question I have with the Rockies is the same each and every night. It's the bullpen. The bullpen's been a bit of a concern. Aside from Wade Davis, you find it hard to go through their bullpen, the arms available, and find any that are trustworthy. So late innings are always up in the air with Colorado, especially in that park. Derek Collins had his numbers are kind of a weird discrepancy, Drew. A 1.29 whip isn't horrendous. It's not great. It's not horrendous, but it certainly shouldn't correlate to a 5.14 ERA. Derek Collins, 35 strikeouts in his last 28 innings shows that he's got decent stuff, but he's been victimized by the long ball. 6 home runs allowed in those 28 innings. So in Coors Field, you don't like that profile to be backing in a game like this. John Gray is still an enigma for the Colorado Rockies. The supposed ace has never really lived up to his billing. He's sporadic at best. Hard to trust because there's a lack of consistency there. You could be staring at another over where these two teams are concerned. The numbers come down from 10.5 all the way to 9.5. So money here, and substantial money, Drew, has been placed on the under and San Francisco. For me, analyzing the game, I kind of like the opposite of those two. But I think more than the total, I'd probably prefer John Gray here. I just think Colorado's much better at outslugging somebody. And in this case, I would look to their lineup. They've been so red hot lately, led by Charlie Blackmon, who's on about a 3.5-week tear at this point in time. Too many sticks on that side of the diamond, so I would probably lean toward Colorado.
Robbie, we got a 7:10 Eastern start here in the American League. Los Angeles Angels at the Detroit Tigers. We got Tyler Skaggs coming from the left side. There's Matt Boyd from the left side as well. 2 southpaws going at it. Detroit minus 115 favorites, total of 8 here. I think the Angels and Skaggs at a plus price here. I'm kind of surprised by it, but I do remember your OPS stat of team OPS differences between home and away with the LA Angels, so I'm not really looking to bet them on the road. And the stat is they're over 250 points better hitting team OPS at home. So tonight they're on the road. That might be one reason to pump the brakes on betting the Angels. But either way, how are you looking to bet the Angels and Tigers tonight?
Yeah, let's go ahead and reinforce that updated number, Drew, because it's been one that we've talked about now for 2 or 3 podcasts in succession here. The LA Angels, for those who haven't caught a podcast where we've discussed this, their home OPS is 821. Their road OPS is 600. That ranks 28th out of 30 Major League Baseball teams, and it's a 221-point difference from the way they hit the ball at home. And if you take a little bit of a look at how LA has fared this season against left-handed pitching, not much better. OPS ranks 26th in Major League Baseball, only 631 against lefties. They do more damage against right-handers, where their OPS is 774. Matthew Boyd for the Detroit Tigers is a is a left-hander that I've been behind his last couple of starts. Got bitten by the 1.5 run line last time out because he was on the winning side of a 4-3 decision, a game in which Detroit jumped out to a 4-0 lead, and I think it was Kansas City chipped away and got 1 1/9 to make the final 4-3. But Boyd has got some outstanding numbers this year for a bad baseball team. 33 innings pitched in his last 5 starts, a 0.91 whip, 34 strikeouts over those 33 innings. And probably most important, Drew, only 2 home runs allowed in 33 innings. So whatever power that LA has from the right-hand side of the plate may be negated by Matthew Boyd's tendency to keep the ball in the park. Tyler Skaggs, kind of hit or miss, where at least that's where my opinion on him is. He's put together some, pretty average numbers so far. And once again, not terrible numbers, certainly not great numbers, but serviceable. And Detroit's got a poor lineup. So perhaps both of these guys can navigate their way through. We stare at a total here mid-afternoon of 8 with a slight bit of vig toward the over. I'm looking at 8 over minus 15 in most places. Maybe you can get as low as 11 cents in penny shops. But to me, I have to back Matthew Boyd or nobody at all because he's pitched so well this year, and just hope that the Detroit bats help him out. Price tag here, pretty cheap, minus 15 cents. Skaggs opened the favorite. There was a turnaround of favorites. Skaggs opened minus 111. 26-cent move shows you now Tigers minus 115. So money came in early, Drew, on Detroit. And that 115 number that we're looking at now, you would have seen 8 o'clock Eastern time this morning. It's just held for about the last 7.5 hours at minus 115.
Robbie, we got 2 night games after your 2 good breakdowns in the MLB. We got in the NL first, the Atlanta Braves having a last year's playoff. This is the team that outed them, so they're here at the LA Dodgers. Got Clayton Kershaw on the hill for the Dodgers, Fulte on the hill for the Braves. Total of 8, minus $2 favorite here for Kershaw and the Dodgers. Is it enough for you to bet on the Braves, or is it too much? What are you thinking here with this big price with the Dodgers?
I think at this point in time, the Fulton-Avich situation for me is a little too risky. Coming off the elbow surgery and hasn't really performed up to his standards since he's come back off the IL. The elbow is a tricky thing, and sometimes it takes a few starts to get things right. Remember, this is a power pitcher who dominated the league last year, but certainly has not been that good since he's come back. He's got an 0-1 record with a 5.06 ERA. That's a far cry from what he was doing last year. Clayton Kershaw, on the other hand, has come back from his injury in stellar form for the LA Dodgers. They haven't lost with him on the hill yet. Kershaw, 2.77 ERA, 0.85 whip. It seemed as if when he got injured in spring training that perhaps Clayton Kershaw, the years were piling up, the injuries start piling up, and maybe he wouldn't be the pitcher that he's been throughout his career. But the numbers certainly have held up so far, and pitching in Dodger Stadium always helps. Atlanta, a very good hitting lineup, but a cold lineup as of late, Drew. They get shut out last night, and over the course of their last 7 games, Atlanta's batting average is only .231. Their OPS only .649, which ranks among the bottom 6 in Major League Baseball over the course of the last 7 days. So Atlanta a little bit cold right now. Kershaw has never lost to this team. I was surprised to read that this morning, that Clayton Kershaw has never been involved in a game with the Atlanta Braves that he lost or that the Dodgers lost. So the price tag is extreme. As most people listening to the podcast know, I don't get involved in this type of price, but the price has been bet up from $1.85 to about $2 right now. Perhaps a run line situation here would be viable. The fact that the Dodgers offense has been so good, and as I mentioned earlier, you can't trust Fulton-Avich. And when Fulton-Avich comes out of the game, even more so, you can't trust the Braves bullpen whatsoever. It's been a stick of dynamite all season long, and the Dodger bullpen fully rested off of the complete game by Hyun-Jin Ryu last night. they have all their arms available. It got some nice rest for Kenley Jansen, who had been worked hard over the weekend, so their closer's good. I think a lot of the pitching angles here add up to the Dodgers. I think the offense adds up to the Dodgers as well. So, like I say, I would probably take a shot run line here. You don't have to lay price whatsoever if you're playing the Dodgers minus 1.5. I mean, you can get as cheap as minus 103. So I don't think that that's that bad of a bargain here with L.A. Kershaw against Foltynewicz.
All right, Robbie, let's quickly do one more. I think we got time for it. Cincinnati at Oakland. We got Sonny Gray at Anderson. Cincinnati getting off the no hit. They got no hit last night, and I think, motivation-wise, this is an opportunity to kind of bet on Cincinnati at a low price. They hit lefties good. Oakland on the other side struggles versus righties. We got Sonny Gray getting out of the New York City lights in Cincinnati, pitching better this year. He hasn't, not from a win-loss standpoint, but his numbers are better this year. And he's going back to Oakland, where it all started for him, really. So I'd look at Cincinnati at a small plus price here as the side. How are you viewing it?
Yeah, I like everything you said, Drew. I'm with you. I think Cincinnati's probably the right side here. Sonny Gray's become one of my favorite subjects to talk about this year. Repetitive at times about his situation with the Yankees and how they made him pitch backwards against his philosophy. Gets reunited with his pitching coach from Vanderbilt here in Cincinnati. He's become a first pitch fastball thrower, and the numbers have just been outstanding. 0.95 whip, 31 strikeouts in 25 and a third innings. Last 5 outings, only 1 home run allowed in those 25 innings. So when you play in that stadium that plays like Yellowstone National Park at nighttime, so hard to hit the ball out, and you're a ground ball pitcher, which Sonny Gray has been so far this year, you really take away the one element of the Oakland A's offensive explosiveness, which is their power. I think Gray's a nice matchup here. The Reds, not really thrilled with their offense. We've talked about this before, too. The switch to Turner Ward as the hitting coach coming over from Los Angeles. He's a big proponent of that launch angle. I think it ruined a couple of Dodger hitters along the way, Chris Taylor and Cody Bellinger in particular. Cody Bellinger has done far better without Turner Ward here this year, as evidenced by his 420-plus batting average on the season. But still, I think Cincinnati's got enough against Anderson, who's just a middle-of-the-road pitcher and doesn't possess any strikeout ability. So since he's going to get the ball in play here tonight, I would take my chances with Sonny Gray. I think he's the right side of that game. Good stuff, Robbie. Follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports. He's got his 5% play up in the NBA playoffs tonight, which have been good, over 60% since 2016. Check that out at sportsmemo.com. 5% play there on the NBA playoffs with coupon code podcast at checkout. You get it for half off, so check that out. Bunch of baseball up at sportsmemo.com as well. And guys, we'll be back tomorrow talking the SEC West preview in college football with Robbie Veno. We talked the SEC East last week. You can check that out, the history on the sportsmemo.com podcast tab. You can listen to all past podcasts, so it's right there. SEC East last week. We're doing SEC West tomorrow, so stay tuned tomorrow. Robbie Veno will be on. And until then, best of luck with your bets. Be safe. We'll talk tomorrow.